Well, if it's African football conversations that you're looking for, look no further because this is the place to be. Bonjour à tous. Ikamalangu itimeleng khosikhadia khavanda. And as you can pick up, like Kaya, we're really multilingual. We don't just confine it into South African borders. We also stretch out. There's a bit of Pidgin, a little bit of Arab, French. We try it all. You wondering where the Pidgin comes from? Well, we go to a state out in Nigeria. I don't want to botch the name.
Osun State.
Osun State. There we say, how far now? No Wahala Day. Adelane Ogrenade joins me every single week where we have these conversations. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and happy Women's Day. It was Women's Day yesterday.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring you a present live on air.
Why didn't you?
There's a certain lady watching at home. I don't want to have to do a lot of explaining after the show.
Well, I am South African, and in South Africa, we do practice polygamy, if you may. We're going to leave it at that. Let's get into the football conversations. As always, we jump into the fun and we ask you the trivia question to kickstart things. This is where we test your African football knowledge. The question lined up for you this week is about the Olympics. I want to know from you, which African football team has the most Olympic appearances? Do you have a guess?
I want to leave that to Auntie Diski to answer. I don't want to butcher things. I know it, but let Auntie Diski answer that. Well,
you're probably going to say it's someone from West Africa. Absolutely not. That's your first clue. Send through your answers, will you? The hashtag to use is hashtag Fut-Afrique. Now, as we get into the conversations, we kick-started by a great initiative that was hosted by CAF as they had a communications workshop out in Egypt, Cairo. How this workshop worked was they invited media officers and people within media across the associations within the African continent. And the whole gist of it, Adelane, was for them to align with the mandate that President Patrice Motsepe had said to make African football self-sustaining, but also globally competitive.
Yes, to improve the governance of African football. And Patrice Motsepe, since he started, he's just impressed me. We just have to look at the last African Nations Cup to see that there are a whole lot of things improving. You saw the 40% increase in the prize money that sadly Ivory Coast won the $7 million US. But even the teams in the quarterfinals were getting paid like 1.3 million. But this workshop is also to improve just the effectiveness of the communication. You know, when the theme for me saying that African football stories have to be told, that was basically the theme. The theme of the workshop. And
talk about that. The African football stories need to be told.
Yes.
How effective or how important is it for us on the African continent to tell our own stories, and how can it benefit football on the continent?
Listen, I wanted to get it right, the theme. It says, your story matters, why African football needs to tell its stories. I'm a writer, so I will tell you something that African football stories need to be told on so many levels. There are so many African footballers from underprivileged backgrounds that need the stories of a George Weah that went from a war-torn country to winning the Ballon d'Or, the only African ever to do so. A Sadio Mane that at 7 years old, his father passed on because he didn't have access to a good hospital. So what did he do? He pumped millions of dollars into building a hospital in his village for his people. Those are the beautiful African stories that need to be told.
Absolutely, and every story matters, right? And I think as you say that, it also trickles down to every story matters, even on the African continent. It's like we only tell the stories of those African stars who go on and flourish globally.
Yes, and we were talking about it earlier, that if you Google Messi, for example, you will see a lot of things come up about him. But what about the players shining in the local leagues that when you Google, you don't get too much of? So this workshop is to rectify those little details that every African story needs to be told. because it is beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Just as we wrap up this conversation, it's great that they invited different personnels, right, from the African continent to come through. One of my favorite is the fact of inclusivity. Yes, men dominate the room, but the fact that there are women present gives me hope that things will change soon. However, Adilane, we don't have people who are decision makers sitting within these workshops. For instance, we send someone from the South African Football Association. They go, they get the knowledge. When they come back to the South African Football Association, they don't necessarily have the power to say to whoever's in authority, to be like, President, this is what we have to do in order for us to align with CAF. Do you not believe then, at least so that we know that what they're being taught is going to be used within the respective associations, CAF should somewhat have a mandate to say, the next time we have a workshop, you need to come with receipts and show us what you've done.
Yes, I mean, don't you believe that changes are already happening? You're not already seeing the changes?
Not 100%, no.
From the last Nations Cup, I saw the changes. I saw the viewership numbers go up. I saw little things even happening within the female sphere of the game.
Viewership will absolutely go up, because I do believe that when it's the Africa Cup of Nations, the communication is carried by CAF.
Right.
It's not by the single individual associations. And I think that's why CAF has these workshops, to say that your associations independently also need to be able to stand and attract people.
Yes, that's right, in fact. But I see the changes. I'm seeing the changes.
From who specifically?
From CAF, from Mr. Patrice Motsepe.
No, besides, I mean, like, do away with CAF. Yes. I mean, like, the associations under CAF.
Under CAF. Yes, I mean, you know that there are different issues in these organizations in terms of more money needs to be pumped into most of them for you to clearly see the improvement. But it's improving steadily. I believe so. I can see it.
Well, that's Adelane's view. If you ask me, I do believe that CAF, yes, has a vision. However, they are a bit lenient when it comes to the member associations. With time, I believe that they will be changed.